we're here at Watches and Wonders, joined today by a familiar face to those who are fans of the IWC brand. Chris, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to sit down with you, go over all the new novelties of IWC. First and foremost, I think that you have some of the best releases this year, obviously focusing a lot on the Ingenieur and expanding the Ingenieur line, but as well coming out with some core models that I think are really going to make a splash among collectors, especially this one that I'm wearing on the wrist that we'll talk about in a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. So before we get into the new novelties, what would you say is kind of the overarching theme of the releases this year?
Yeah, so it's twofold. They're really focusing on the line extension of the Ingenieur. So the Ingenieur, as you know, we had one of the three original Gerald Genta sports watch designs of the mid-1970s. You know, the Royal Oak came first, and then the Nautilus and the Ingenieur were in 1976. And ours really took a little bit of a different stance because it was a watch designed for engineers, and we didn't aim at the time to create a luxury jewelry watch. We aimed at creating a tool watch that was anti-magnetic, hard-wearing, round and simple in its case shape, and being the most understated Genta design of that era. And maybe that was a little bit ahead of its time, because at the time it was really marketed to engineers. And then the zeitgeist really picked that idea up much later, and we relaunched the Ingenieur back in 2023 as an automatic 40 model. We were really impressed by how it did, and that's really why we then started to work on the extension of the Ingenieur line, and now we're bringing new materials, new colors, new complications, and new sizes. And that is really one big building block of this year. And then the other one, of course, we are very excited to be partnering with the Formula One movie produced by Jerry Bruckheimer, shot by Joe Kosinski, scored by our friend Hans Zimmer, and with Brad Pitt and Damson Idris playing Formula One drivers of a virtual Formula One team, a fictitious Formula One team called Apex GP, but inserted into the real circus of Formula One, shot across 3 seasons of actual Formula One Grand Prix are coming to theaters now on June 25th. So we're really excited. We've got some very, very nice watches to commemorate that movie. And
absolutely. I guess let's start there, right? With the release of this new Pilot's watch to commemorate the launch of the movie, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a Pilot's Chronograph 41 and 43 in stainless steel in the Apex livery colors, which are really inspired by one of the great classic racing liveries from the 1970s. Now here we've taken our black dial with the gold accents, the white accents in. We have our beautiful easy exchange strap where you have a really easy quick release and change option on that strap. It's got the Apex GP logo engraved, and we've got an Apex GP logo on the case back as well. Glass case back, our IWC manufactured 69 caliber chronograph movement inside, and just a really, really nice team watch to get in the spirit of the F1 movie. And then, of course, we also have a version of that was worn by Damson Idris in the movie. You'll see it. He's the rookie driver, Joshua Pierce. We launched a couple of years ago in Las Vegas at the Grand Prix our performance chronograph line. It's our racing-focused Pilot's chronographs that feature that tachymeter bezel. Really, what's interesting to point out about this one is that dial is just a sheer beauty. You've got a highly lacquered dial that has inserted sub-counters that are separate pieces. We have the applied numerals and markers there, and then this features a 5N gold case, black ease exchange strap. And again, we have the caliber 69 visible behind the sapphire case back, 10-bar waterproofing. So it's a really, really beautiful sports watch that will be visible on Joshua Pierce's wrist in the movie.
One thing that I loved about the release of this a couple of years ago with the new ceramic bezel, it gave a totally fresh look. I think to the IWC Pilot's Chrono line, right? Yeah. Obviously, most were not used to kind of having this ceramic bezel, but I think it's been super well received, and it's a nice addition.
Yeah, this is the thing, you know. We always said we wanted a particular Pilot's version that is at home in the world of racing, and I know this is a crowded marketplace. So a tachymeter bezel on the Pilot's chronograph at first, I know some people said, "Why do you need that?" But I think that line established itself really, really well, and I think it has its customer base, and it's really a good complementary line to our classic Pilots and the Top Gun watches, so I'm very happy with how it does.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously the Pilot's chronograph has been, and just Pilot's watches in general for IWC, has been around for a very, very long time. I'd say it's probably one of, if not your best kind of blank canvases for designs. And one thing that I'm always impressed by is your ability to kind of create new designs, fresh designs every single year for this lineup. I guess my question is, where does your kind of eye for design, or the IWC's eye for design, come from?
Yes, we have a long history of that. As you know, we've got an American founder. He was 27 when he crossed the Atlantic, wanted to combine American industrial know-how with Swiss craftsmanship, which was the idea of the International Watch Company. You know, the watches got assembled in the movement in Schaffhausen, Switzerland, shipped to Brooklyn, New York, and then encased in Brooklyn and shipped to the US market. And Joseph's approach was always one of engineering. So he wanted to make functional watches that where very ingenious, very robust, but very user-friendly as well. And that's been sort of our mantra ever since. So you see a lot of our watches are tool-watch based. They're quite clear and crisp in their design. And then we take them and we really put them into this idea of the storytelling environment, be that watches for navigation, for aviation, for space, for racing, and all of those things inform the design. So to give you an example of this watch that's called Lake Tahoe, this was literally the first shooting day of Top Gun Maverick when we went up to China Lake. And I saw the pilots at the time in the Mojave Desert colored flight suits, which are the tan color basically that the US Navy pilots wear in the desert. And that inspired me to go into that color scheme and do something that is tone on tone in that sort of beige cream tan color. And I drove back and I stopped at something called Mojave Mart, which was an excellent gas station. I phoned my team and said, how about Mojave? Is that name available? And they said, yeah, we can do that. And that's how Mojave Desert started. And Lake Tahoe simply got inspired by the fact that the snow scenes in Top Gun Maverick were shot above the Sierras, which were covered in snow, which is all around Lake Tahoe, and that's where the name comes from. So it's always that kind of inspiration where you have a functional origin, then there's some storytelling element that gives you this sort of, initial idea. And then I think, I'm an interior designer by training. Christian Knoop is a product designer by training. So I think we put our worlds together. Mine is more environmental, movie set, architectural. His is more industrial design, product focused and graphics focused. And together we sort of, develop these products until they just hit the mark.
And what I love as well with IWC is you have an ability to kind of seamlessly blend your unique designs with, of course, innovative materials, right? And I think that's really showcased, of course, with this white ceramic case, but also in the release of the new Ingenieur in 40 millimeters with the ceramic case, ceramic bracelet. Sorry, it's ceratanium bracelet.
Oh, ceramic.
It's ceramic. Oh, it's ceramic. Okay.
It's all ceramic.
Wow.
It even surprises you.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is the point. It's all ceramic, and it's a material that really doesn't lend itself to any of what we've done here. And to really do it from the outside in, to say we're starting off with the size and proportions we wanted, and then create a whole new ceramic construction that would deliver that. That's really what I'm proud of in this piece.
That makes it even more impressive because the level of polishing, the bevels that you're able to achieve on a material as difficult to work with as ceramic.
Because only diamond tools will do it, so it's very, very hard to work. And of course, also maintaining that proportion here that we have between the case ring and the bezel means you cannot work with a regular metal container and ceramic around it. You have to really screw ceramic into ceramic from the front and back. And to be able to do that, have a ceramic crown that is not screw-in and still have 100-meter 10-bar waterproofing is really quite a technical achievement, right?
Yeah.
And then, as you say, we've actually brushed the entire case and the bracelet. We've then given it a mild sandblasting just to tone down that shine a little bit. And then went on the bevels and went on the edges and just added a bit of polishing. And then you have a beautiful play in the light without it being too shiny, looking too plasticky. Then also when you look at the bracelet, a ceramic bracelet, often they're very loose because you want to stop the material from touching each other itself. And here we've achieved really the same gapping as in the stainless steel. We've achieved a very good sideways rigidity, and that whole thing just looks very, very solid, even though it's all ceramic.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that is of note, of course, as well, is the fact that now the Ingenieur comes with or at least in this model, comes with an open display case back, right? Which, again, to ensure the 10-bar water resistant is still a challenge in and of itself, especially with a ceramic case, right?
Yeah, it's in construction for a glass case back. You need to factor in that it takes more height. We have to factor that in. The waterproofing, of course, but then we want to showcase the 82 caliber new bullet in this.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, there's other sizes as well, right? You're coming out with Ingenieur in 35 millimeters, as well as other dial colors.
Exactly.
Green
so we have the 35, we have the gold model here, but we have it in stainless steel black, stainless steel silver, and then gold on gold. Again, the 35 is just a beautiful project in terms of resizing that watch completely to 35, but maintaining the look and feel of the Ingenieur 40s. So every element is reproportioned. Nothing is the same as in the 40s, not to scale down, but then getting to quite a presence with that beautiful bezel presence. We added a bit of polishing on the 35 to give it more impact in that smaller size. And then again, glass case back, showing off the movement, and all in all, beautiful watch for men and women. It's really, really versatile, this one.
Absolutely, I totally agree. And of course, one thing that IWC is very, very well known for is your incredible complications, right?
Yes.
How can we not talk about IWC Perpetual calendars? Even, for example, the new shock absorber tourbillon, which is absolutely incredible. We got the opportunity to see that. But of course, I think this is one of, if not the best releases of Watches and Wonders this year, featuring the incredible, obviously, innovation of the IWC Perpetual calendar, but now in this new kind of silhouette with the Ingenieur.
Yeah, 100%. So we really want to bring Kurt Klaus's Perpetual calendar. It's a very legible Perpetual calendar. It's a single moon at 6 o'clock. You've got very legible information on that beautiful signature IWC blue dial. And then, of course, the entire Perpetual calendar is adjustable via the main crown. There's no adjustment pushes on the case side. This is really fully adjustable via the single crown. You have this in the integrated bracelet case in stainless steel, at a very, very good wearable size of 41 millimeters. And you have really something that is an everyday complication, that is reliable, that's robust, that's beautiful to look at. So it's, for me, one of those dailies that just...
I totally agree. And I think you've achieved such a balanced aesthetic, right? With respect to the fact that the dial is so symmetrical and it's so well finished. Again, you get all the incredible bracelet.
It's always really interesting when you develop these dials, like, because the case in the metal has a certain shine and a certain play of light to it, you really have to be very specific on the dial. So the first dial we got into this watch was completely dull and matte and absolutely did nothing for this watch. Then the second version came where the sub counters, the base dial was really good, but the sub counters were shining like disco balls, right? It was just like a glitter ball, right? And then we did a third version of that where just the balance of the azurage on the sub counters and the main tapestry dial were just right, so it doesn't outshine the case, but it still pops, so it doesn't sink into the case. Those are things you can only ever do in prototyping. There's no amount of rendering visualization that can take away from actually working in the metal, working with dials. And me being an architect and interior designer, I had to get used to that, because in architecture you can render everything on the computer and you can build it exactly like that and it's spot on. In watches that doesn't work. You have to go into prototyping very quickly. You have to do various loops until you have that right balance, and only in the real watch can we see the effect.
Absolutely, and that's such great insight, right? It's just like an artist. At what point do you stop and achieve kind of the perfect painting? And that's kind of where I see it in watches, right? That's so underappreciated, is the design element takes so much research and development and trial and error.
And in the end, I always think, that there is a point up until which you can use strategy and logical thinking, and then that stops and you have to go into pure emotional reaction. And often, like, I get asked, why did you do this or that? Because it doesn't make sense, because on the other one you did it differently. I said, yes, because this is not a structured PowerPoint exercise. This is, at the end of the day, each watch on its own needs to be the most beautiful it can be. And we have to live with inconsistencies and quirky decisions, because sometimes it's just nicer. And they say, but how do you measure that? No, you don't. This is where the heart comes in, right? You can only use your gut, your heart, the emotional response. So what I do is, when we get to a certain point where the watch is almost there, I start wearing it in the office, I start wearing it around home, and I just see how it behaves and how I feel. And that's super subjective. That's not, there's nothing scientific about it. And in the end, those final design decisions are just on, is it wow? Is it not wow? And that's a very, very difficult field to have a discussion, right?
Yeah.
It's human response, and you can only hope that other humans react like it.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. One last question, and I'll let you go back to, I know you have a really busy schedule. Obviously, you mentioned at the beginning of our conversation, 1976, the original birth date of the IWC Ingenieur. Next year is going to be 50 years.
It is indeed.
Any teasers in terms of what we can expect?
It's going to be something, the watch industry loves an anniversary. We love anniversaries. There's always anniversaries. I think next year there's multiple anniversaries and things. No, but for sure, the idea with the Ingenieur line is we're going to build it step by step. We're going to build it in, as I said, various sizes, complications, models, colors, and step by step, you'll see that line coming together as a fully fledged IWC product line.
Awesome. Chris, thank you so much for joining me.
So much.
Such a pleasure to have the time with you. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to hit the like button, subscribe for more videos like this in the future. If you have any questions about these timepieces or any timepieces in general, feel free to leave them down in the comments below. As always, my name is Marco for Verdi's Jewelry. We'll see you guys in the next one.